All right. Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to our Love in Action group. I'm kind of curious, is there anyone here in this group for the first time? Oh, great, great. So good to have you here. This is just, you know, among everything else we talk about, this is just a really fun group to be in. So I hope you enjoy it. And, we kind of came upon a theme uh, in the past couple of days, and it has to do with as we talk with others, as we work with them and individuals and groups, kind of where our state of mind is in terms of, you know, we're obviously trying to help people, or else we wouldn't be doing this. But sometimes that idea of what help looks like, or how we feel about ourselves as a helper, can kind of get in the way a little bit. So we thought that would be a good topic to discuss. And one of the things that relates, just for me personally, that comes up is, as I have discovered different things in my life in terms of searching and what you might call spirituality or self-development, I think the conclusion I came to was the biggest problem that I ever have is that I think that there's something inside me that needs to be fixed, as opposed to maybe understood or seen or just let pass, which is something that I find on a personal level is often the most helpful thing. So I'm going to hand this over to Steph in a sec, but so sometimes I think the extent to which we might think other people have something that need to be fixed can kind of disturb what we're doing with them. But at the same time, it's totally understandable. It's totally, I think, ordinary to have that kind of experience. So, with that in mind, with those ideas in mind, like what are we up to? We're trying to help, but sometimes maybe that idea of what that looks like can kind of get in the way, or maybe even as you all share, maybe you have a different perspective on this altogether. So that's kind of where we're going in this meeting. So I want to turn it over to Steph and see what she has to say. I can't wait.
Me too, Tom. I can't wait either. Tom and I had talked about a bunch of things leading up to this session here. And it's always interesting to see what actually occurs to me to say. And what's occurring to me is to share a story of a client of mine, whom I love dearly, by the way. I have developed quite the affection for this person. And also have experienced a lot of frustration with them. And I'm going to say this is my frustration as I see it now, although sometimes it had looked like the problem was this person because they were being difficult. Because I'm just trying to help, right? And so I had a conversation coming up with this particular client, a client playmate of mine. And I went into it noticing that tension from this thinking of like, but this person is so difficult. They're always so stuck in their stories. I can't get them out of their stories. What am I going to do? And so I said, you know what? I don't want to do that. And what I told myself going into this conversation was, I am not going to help them. I'm not going to help them. I'm not going to help them. And it was really interesting because I dropped something that I'll now say felt like an agenda about needing this person to be a certain way, show up a certain way, cooperate with me as their coach in a certain way. I dropped it and I just listened. And as I recall, this hour-long conversation, for probably the first 30 minutes, they just talked like nonstop, gave me updates, told me all kinds of things, and then paused and said, okay, your turn. What do you hear? And I had something to say, but it didn't come from that agenda. It didn't come from, I need to get this person out of their story and onto this path. And I saw how my helping wasn't helping. Now, it's not that being helpful isn't helpful, but it was the trying to help that I was doing. This like needing to help, like needing it to look a certain way, needing for my conversational partner to show up a certain way in order to know that it was worthwhile. Like that wasn't helpful. And the call went so much better than usually these conversations with this particular client playmate went, that afterward I was like, I'm never going to help anyone ever again. I'm going to try that with everyone. So let me be clear. By saying I'm not going to help people, it doesn't mean I'm not going to do what I think might be helpful. It means that I'm not going to try. I'm not going to like make it about helping this person in a certain way. I'm just going to let it be simpler than that and show up with this person and be with this person and let go of my ideas about how it's supposed to go, and then allow something to arise from it. And I'll share another story that's like this too, which also happened, where I've been noticing and asking myself, do I need this person to show up differently?
Mhm.
Do I need them to show? Do they need to show up differently? And it's just helping me to see this fresh. Am I actually being with the person, or am I being with my thoughts about how this person should be that they're not and what they need? And what I'm seeing is that the less I actually show up with my thinking about the person, and the more I'm actually just with the person without any expectation, agenda, or need for them to be different than they are, the cleaner it is and the easier it is for things to unfold in a way that's really helpful. So I'm wondering if this means that, oh, I lost Tom from my pin. Okay. But there you are. So those are some of the questions that I'm sitting with. Like, actually, do we, if we want to share something, we want to share something that's real to us, something that we've seen that we might call an insight, something we've seen that we might call truth with a capital T, are we sharing from a place that this person in front of us needs to change?
Right.
And is that serving? And I'm open to exploring that. That's kind of where I'm at. Not saying I get this, just sharing that, it feels so much cleaner to be aware of what's happening, but not to need it to be different, to be aware of what might be helpful, to notice if I actually have permission to go there. Like, am I in coach mode? Am I in friend mode? Listening ear? Just being? Those were a lot of questions. What did you hear, Tom?
Yeah, those are a lot of questions, but we can pick any one of them. And as you were talking, I was reflecting on what Sid Banks would say often when he would talk. He would just say, okay, forget all about all of that, it's just a nice feeling to be in. And I think everyone here who's talked to anyone, I'm pretty confident, has gotten to a point in a conversation where they actually maybe forget who's the coach or the helper, and you're just in this flow of conversation that feels like to me it's like a discovery. And in a way, like in the language of the principles, we're kind of relying on what we call universal mind to kind of carry the weight of what we're doing, and we can kind of let go a little bit or a lot maybe, and get into the flow of that conversation. And that's just like a really beautiful space to, in a way, maybe in some ways, that's a very helpful thing for another person, which is to actually see that we're relying on something greater than ourselves in this conversation. And what happens, and I guess this is the other thing, what happens ultimately, who knows? Like, is it really up to us? Like, another thing that happens sometimes is maybe you've had this experience too, where someone will come back to you a day, a week, a year later and tell you about something that you said that really made an impact on them. And you might be like, I don't even remember saying that. or that just was something offhand. And by the same token, another thing that can happen in talking to people is that you can be at the end of the conversation, the person could say, wow, that really helped me. This is great. And then the next time you talk to them, it seems like they're right back where they were. Now, a lot of that is really illusory in terms of like what we're seeing in other people. But the reason I say that is that there's a lot that people can see that really, it's not really directly dependent on what we do in a way. So like I see it more and more as showing up, getting into that flow, that nice feeling of conversation, and then being open to what can occur to you, because things can occur to you that are, let's just say, even far beyond anything that you've said before. If you've had training, there are avenues available to us that are beyond even what we were trained to do. So like, as Steph was saying, that like if we can maybe step back a little bit and let go of even the image of ourselves as a helper, then new things, new and fresh things can open up. So I'd really be happy to hear what other people are, feeling, thinking, getting from this, what's on your mind. Steph, how would you like to do this? Should we spend a little time talking, do some small groups, or just, I'm kind of open to how we can form it.
I'm glad you asked that, Tom, because I think I'd like to see if anyone has a question or an area here they'd like to explore further. If you want to just bring that up, because I would like to create some breakout rooms. I think we have enough people that it would be really cool to give everyone a place where they can like explore some of this for themselves. And oh, I see Maria. Hi, Maria.
Yes, hi. Well, you asked for questions, so I have a question. The question is, what does it mean to be a helper? Because being a helper is like, okay, you have an intuition, but what does it mean to be a helper?
That is a brilliant question. That's one that I think would be great for exploration. Like, what does it mean for you to be a helper? And maybe even like, and is part of that job fixing, or, that's part of like the conversation here. Like, what does it actually mean to be a helper to you? Any other questions or topics that are coming up for you? I think that might be it, Tom. That's a really good one.
Yeah.
Does that feel good?
That feels good. And also, like, as we go into breakout rooms, if for some reason the word helper doesn't even resonate with you, like what else might you be up to? If you're working with people, if that's not your orientation, maybe you have a different orientation. So yeah, that sounds like a good.
Yeah, brilliant exploration. So I'm going to open up breakout rooms. You'll be in groups of 3 or possibly 4. And maybe Tom and myself will pop in for a visit. I'm not sure. Tom, you want to, I put you in a room. So yeah, that's perfect. You can go in or not. I'm going to open up the breakout rooms. I'm going to give you 15 minutes total. So if you're in a room with 3, about 5 minutes each, I'll give you 5-minute reminders and just explore. Each person gets a chance to share your answer to the question, what does it mean to be a helper? Or if, as Tom said, a helper doesn't resonate with you, when you're sharing, when you're being with someone and you want to coach or whatever it is that you're doing, what does that mean to you? Any questions about this before we go in?
Yeah, when you say helper, you mean in a positive way? Right now, you mean helper as a positive way of, as a right way of?
I think whatever it means to you, like what does being a helper mean to you? What is helpful and what's not helpful? Just explore anything around that. You can't mess it up.
Thank you.
Perfect, Thomas. Any other questions? Okay, I'm opening up the breakout rooms and I'll see you in 15 minutes.
In Minnesota, United States.
Welcome back, everyone.
Yay. Well, what do you think, Steph? I think it'd be awesome to hear from everyone who wants to share what that was like, or anything really.
Yeah, I'm wondering, what did you notice that's new, in particular, that's new and fresh for you around helping, what it means to you to be a helper, or anything else that you noticed around that? And you can raise your digital hand if you want. Just go to the reactions button and raise it, or you can raise your actual hand. And
Actual hand.
yeah. Do you have an actual hand, Dwight? Yes.
What's new for me is the sense of relief when I let go of trying to be the helper. That's the thing that really jumped out at me in our conversation. So
Yeah, I really feel that too. Dwight I was in the group with Dwight, and he mentioned it as a weight. It's like, I take this weight off. There's some job I have to do, some control I have to have over where this goes, or the result that this person gets, the outcome, whether they hear me or not. Put it down. What else did you notice about what it means to you to be a helper that's new? Or maybe it brought up another question. That's cool too.
Mm-hmm. Maria. Hey, Maria.
Hey. Yeah, we had been talking a lot about trusting the process that the other person has, and whether it means to stop helping by trusting the process, so to say, to get rid of your own ego and trust the other person, or if it means to help to like give support to the other person and trust them that they will find their way. That was the main discussion we had. Like it was longer, of course, but in very short.
Yeah, nice. And maybe when we talk about the feeling that we're having that's present when we're talking to other people, that feeling of trust, if that's alive, that's probably just a good sign of something.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we have Bruce. Hi, Bruce.
Hello. Yeah, and that same flavor that Maria had mentioned that we discussed about trust was that wisdom really needs to enter on both sides. You know, I so much had concentrated on what I'm bringing that if I get quiet enough, I'll drop into wisdom. But it's just as important on the reciprocal end for them to be open to wisdom. And the analogy came to me just as I was thinking that and saying that, because before this call, I was on a YouTube about ham radio stuff, and that's one of my hobbies. And you've got to be on the same frequency. You know, if you're talking to someone on another continent, and you've got to refine it and make it as best possible for various reasons. But, you know, so often in the helping world, you feel you want to bring the best message, but the best message is often beyond ourselves. But that same frequency needs to be dialed in to receive it on the other end.
Hmm. That's a beautiful metaphor, Bruce. And I think about, like, if wisdom or this universal intelligence is a frequency, it's something that's always available, that all of us can feel, that's moving through us, because it's this intelligence that animates us, even in the very ordinarily miraculous ways, like our body knowing what to do to digest our food and telling us when we need a drink of water. And I wonder what it is that, like, how I can show up. It seems to me that when I show up, as Bruce said, and kind of drop into that, like, get quiet so that I'm tuned into that frequency, seems to be the very best thing I can do to allow someone else, maybe make it a little easier by perhaps amplifying or just being that frequency with them, reminds them that it's there. Or it seems like it does. If you've noticed, when you're with anyone who's upset, they start to settle, as long as I'm settled, as long as I don't get riled up with them, and then we could just, you know, together, right? But when I settle, they start to settle. Like, it brings that settling, brings that bit of peace. And with that comes tuning into that frequency a little bit more for themselves. And I think that trust that Maria was talking about, I think that Tom and I have that going on in this session, right? Like, we don't have a fixed agenda of exactly what we're going to talk about and who's going to talk when, and what we're going to do. But isn't it amazing that I just love the question that Maria asked? What does it mean to be a helper? Like, I think we're going to use that one. Thank you, universe, through Maria. You know, like,
Right.
what else did you notice that's new and interesting about being a helper, or helping other people, or fixing people?
Yeah, or even if something that was like surprising, which is another way of saying anything surprised you about this. Hello, Jen.
Hi. So I was kind of surprised, I guess, that helpers maybe aren't as excited about being helped as helping. I'm not sure how they would phrase it. Yeah. So I'm not super crazy about being helped myself, and I also don't think of myself as a helper. So it's fun to hear that other helpers also had that feeling. So that was cool.
What is that? I'm curious, Jen, what does that mean to you, to be a helper, that you don't consider yourself one?
Well, it's just because of my experience. Like, I often find people think I need help when I don't, so I don't want to do that to other people. So it's hard for me, and it's totally a lot to do with me, and maybe they do really need help. But yeah, and I just feel like I'm more of an explorer, which is probably why I'm attracted to this group. And yeah, that more of that vibe. Yeah.
Well, that's really cool. So what if we don't help people, we just explore with them? How might that feel different? And is that in fact actually helpful to explore with someone?
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
I mean, I'm sitting with that question, like not expecting an answer, but as I sit with it, I know that some of the best coaching conversations I have had where I was a client were exploratory sessions, were sessions where I just got to explore, and I was exploring with someone. They're like, hey, look over there. What do you see? Oh my gosh, what do you see? I see this. It's like that. And it was so expansive. It's a certain kind of conversation, but it's incredibly helpful to have somebody just with you on the journey, especially if you're exploring something that feels a little scary, maybe.
Yeah.
I love that, Jen. Thank you. And we have Claire, the Queen of Calm.
Yeah, when you were just saying that stuff, what came to mind was that probably most of us in this room have tried to help ourselves a lot in the past by, you know, well, for me, there was endless self-development books and all the books about habits, all the ones that have got the word tiny at the beginning, but just a different word for it. I've done all of those, and Mel Robbins' 5-second rule and all sorts of other things about productivity, and then endless meditation and gratitude journals and blah, 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 blah. Oh, and therapy and poking around in the past. And none of that really helped. Really ironically, it didn't, did it? For most of us, we've been on that path, and we were probably most of us like kind of okay, I'm hanging it onto it with my fingernail ends. And so I guess we don't want to do that to other people, really. And I find myself moving further and further away from that, more into that type of conversation that you just mentioned. The main thing I noticed is that the first couple of conversations with a client that we are talking about their stuff, but very quickly we're just having chat about funny old humans and how they work, and isn't it interesting, and all that kind of thing, which is a much nicer experience. And the other thing that I mentioned in the room was that what I notice is that when I'm in that space, some really random shit comes up to say. And my thinking mind goes, you can't say that, it's mildly inappropriate. But it'll just be like a word. I'll just say, you know, I'm just thinking this, and I'll say a word or a phrase, and they'll go, oh yeah, I get, yeah, and that something will click. And I like that, because that doesn't feel like helping. That just feels like, well, there's something coming through me. It feels like it could be some level of complete nonsense, but I'm going to say it anyway. And then it turns out that it's helpful, and that's really nice. I like that. It's fun. It's more playful and more light.
You don't have a word coming up right now, do you, Claire?
Well, the first word that just came up then was sausages, so let's just not go there. Is that inspiring anybody in the room? Has anybody got anything on sausages? Is it somebody's meal that's about to...
Yeah, I'm hungry now. Thanks.
Okay, that's the last, make a note, Stella. Never ask that question again. Just random word. If you can't tell, I'm just delighted by that. I'm actually delighted by the randomness and the playfulness that emerges when we allow it. It doesn't take much. Anyone else want to share something that they noticed about helping, or what's evolved in this conversation we've been having? I really like the idea of, if you weren't a helper, what would you be? What would you like to be with someone you're being with? And Jen suggested an explorer. I love that. You just like to be a friend. We could be a hug. What if you were just like a warm hug for somebody?
Sometimes that's the best help you can give.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, a listener. It's amazing. I have done this coaching exercise many times, and it's always so cool to see it new. Is actually just truly just listening, being a listening space for someone while they just, for 10 minutes, they could talk about whatever they want to explore. And to watch that person coach themselves. Like first they might be spinning a little bit in the problem, but then they like stop. And when they pause, they see something new, and I'm not doing anything. I'm just the excuse for them to talk to themselves and hear themselves think and get a little quieter and listen. So powerful being with somebody, just being with them, being a friend, being a listener.
Right. And you know, I love the metaphor of the explorer, because that's a sensibility that you can bring to a conversation where, as opposed to, you know, I have a problem, someone has a problem, okay, and now I'm going to try to help them have a solution. Instead, well, let's explore a little bit, like what's underneath the problem. What is the problem even made of? And in exploring, it takes the pressure off you trying to help a person get an answer, but maybe exploring is really what is you know, a really good thing to do, because what happens when you explore, you discover. So to me, that feels alive. Like if I'm sitting down with someone, and maybe if you want to say the point of that conversation is to discover something. I mean, we're doing that here, right? That's actually what we're doing in this, to me, in this group today. We're exploring something, and now we're all discovering something. And to me, if I were to use the word success, that would be successful if the person discovers something and also sees themselves as a discoverer. That can change so much. And I see Maria has her hand up.
Yes, so I think those are wonderful thoughts. What I want to add is that I think it's important to consider where is the other side and where is the coach, him or herself. Like we mentioned, like I would say toolboxes, like you have like rules, you have like checklists and so on. I think it's important to have those in the back of your mind, because when they are needed, then you can provide them. When they are not needed, then you just don't need them at this moment.
Yeah. Nice. It's like the metaphor of the explorer. You can come equipped with all these things. You might need them, you might not, but it's nice to know that they're there. Let's see. Oh, we have Mika.
Hey there. Sliding in late. Yeah, what comes to me is just this idea of like that we come in with some, we come in centered, we come in grounded, but we also come in with lightness, with some buoyancy, like not like, okay, I have to get this right, or I've got to help fix this, this person, whatever, just coming in with like freedom and spaciousness, and knowing that the wisdom is in each and every one of us. So we don't come in with more wisdom or less wisdom than the person we're with. And I think of like, when I think of like a tarot deck, or the hero's journey, I think of the fool, right? Standing there on the cliff of this like infinite possibility. Like, I think both the coach and the coachee, they're both in that position. And there's a playfulness that can be when we can come into it with that, in that space. And yeah, we we've done some of our own work, you know, that has given us some tools or some grounding or some centered space to come from when we are in that dialogue. But once we're there, it's that full exploratory spaciousness is like where so much of the good stuff is.
Wow.
Hmm. And I'm wondering, as you're listening to like what Mika just shared, if you have a sense of, you can feel that space of possibility she was talking about. And that if we imagine when we show up as a companion or a fellow explorer or a helper or whatever, a friend, a listener, that when we feel that, they can feel that too. Especially, we don't even have to speak from that place. But I think Mika probably could have been talking about pouring herself a glass of water from that space, and I would have felt it.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I just would have went, oh man, I'm thirsty.
Oh.
You know, one other thing I got to add, and this is on a whole other note, but Steph, when I got your email as an emotional projector, I was like, I need to go on this call.
Do you know how many projectors we have in this call, Mika? It's crazy. Like I know
Oh,
for
really?
sure of what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think. At least.
Oh, wow.
If you don't know what we're talking about, we're referring to projectors in human design, which is sort of it's not a primary interest of mine, but it's a side interest that seems to bring cool people into my life. So.
Yeah. And projectors, they say that like about 20% of the overall population are projectors. So it's not the primary.
If you're hanging out with me, it's more like 40%,
Yeah,
40
right.
to 50%.
Yeah, seems
Or
to be.
more. Yes.
Well, we have just a couple of minutes left. I was just wondering if it's okay to call on Olga. You don't have to, but if I think I startled you. Do you have anything you might like to just share about what you're hearing, or?
Oh, you're brave, Tom.
Yeah. Well,
You know how early it is for her?
Well, we may get some of that dream wisdom coming in.
What's come out for me this morning is I need to go and change my service statement. How many of you start with, I help, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to change that because I don't want to do that. And it's not what I do anyway. So, but how common is that in the world? In terms of, business development and whatever. So yeah, that's something that struck me from the conversation today.
Awesome.
At 5 o'clock in the morning.
That's right. You get best ideas at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Thank you, Olga, for being here. It's wonderful to see you.
Thank you. Thank you. And then let's go to for our last little share, Maria.
Yes, I have a question. This might be a language barrier question. So we are talking about helping. Is there a core difference between helping and supporting people?
Yeah, I think that's a good question to ask ourselves. It feels a little supporting feels a little more cooperative rather than one person here and one person there. Maybe people on the same level and you're supporting someone, but I actually like that word a lot, support. So thank you. Yeah, thank you. And that's a good word for me.
I like what Olga brought up about the statements we make. I help so and so to get such and such. You know, I help entrepreneurial women to attract the clients that they love working with, or whatever it is. If you didn't help them, what would it be? You know, if you weren't doing that verb, what verb would you be doing? Like some of the ones we've talked about, and what occurred to me was play. What if I'm playing with people? Yeah, Claire says guide. That's a beautiful one.
That goes into the theme of exploring too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Cool. Well, I would like to invite you, if you haven't found us there already, to join us in the Wildspire community. It's a free community where Tom and I are sharing videos. You're welcome to also participate. Our theme this month that we've been kind of exploring here and there in a few videos that I've posted is faith, which we talked about earlier this month. So it's a good place to come and explore and ask some of these questions and connect with some amazing people like the ones you've met today.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think this feels like a good place to close.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm going to read this to you. This came from my trip to Lisbon, and we didn't have tarot cards. I'll read it out loud. But we picked out postcards for each other, and we had to select one as long as it wasn't ours. I was with a group of people, and this is the one that I picked. And it's a quote from Hermann Hesse. I have been and still am a seeker, but I have ceased to question stars and books. I have begun to listen to the teaching my blood whispers to me. And this has a picture of what might be a flower or might be blood.
It might be a blood flower.
To listen to the teaching my blood whispers to me. And I think we've been talking about that. It speaks to that wisdom within. You know, listen, what's happening in there? And if you've heard that today, success, Tom proclaimed it. Thank you so very much.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, everyone.
See you again soon.
Hey, take care.